Welcome to Skin and Soul. I'm Gwenm Carsley, a transformational body, sex, and soul coach, and I'm inviting you on a bold, unfiltered journey into the heart of our humanity through the lens of Eros. This is where we strip away the shame, dive into the unspoken, and embrace the wild, raw truth of our desires. Together, we'll crack open the taboo, uncover our deepest intimacies, and awaken the pulse of our sexual essence. Because real transformation, it's messy, it's thrilling, and it's oh so delicious. Buckle up, loves. Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale starts in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hi, I'm Gwenm, and I'm the host of Skin and Soul on Transformation Talk Radio, where we get to speak beyond the pale. I'm also a body, sex, and soul coach and the creator of Luvology. And today with me, I have a very dear friend, an amazing embodiment coach and sacred photographer and priestess nomadic. I think I said that. Did I say that right? Nomadic priestess. Sorry, I get my words mixed up. Anyway, we're here today. We've had a lot of technical glitches. So this is kind of like take 4 or 3 or whatever. But we're going to dive right in on her journey. So she's on her own Eat, Pray, Love journey, just traveling through right now, currently in Portugal, and then next stop, Greece. But having come from having left a relationship and just taking life by the horns. And we're also going to be touching on reclaiming pussy. So because I really want to bring that out there and invite men into the conversation. So let's go. All right, we're here. We've arrived. So tell me a little bit around how you got here and a bit around your embodiment journey around getting to this place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like this whole embodiment journey, really it's been like a journey back to self, right? As we start peeling back the layers, layer by layer, and feeling and experiencing and feeling and allowing the feelings to flow. And I was called to do some ceremony at the end of April. And I went and sat in ceremony for 3 nights, and I had this incredible healing around how I show up in love, and I realized that I had been loving from my wounding rather than from my wholeness. And with healing that wounded piece, suddenly the world felt like something needed to be birthed through me. How does life want to be birthed through me? How do I get to live in this life from my wholeness versus my wound? And the medicine was pretty direct. It was start living from your soul, get out there and start sharing your message with the world. So that's what I did. I literally packed up a life in LA. I drove across the country with my cat in my convertible, which was not the best experience, but it was what it was. And left everything on the East Coast with my kids and flew off to Portugal. And that was just about 2.5 weeks ago now. So I'm in a space that I feel like my nervous system is just starting to recalibrate. The last couple days, I'm feeling more like me. I can feel my creativity coming back. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what we're here to do. So I'm excited for what the next step is.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to address like getting to this place where things start to feel like the creative juices are flowing and the nervous system settles. That there was
Yeah,
a space before, which is like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know
yeah,
why I'm here. I know it was a good idea in the moment, but I have no idea whether what I'm doing is actually good, because then things start to, I'm going to say, things can go wrong, especially, when you first land in a place, it doesn't necessarily feel like what you think it's going to be necessarily in your head, right?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
Well, I
then
feel
you're,
like yeah, sorry.
no, no,
I
no, go
feel like,
on.
yeah, no, I feel like it's been really, it's really been the act of surrender. Can I show up and just be with what is here right now? Leaving the expectations behind, leaving the whole idea that, I'm gonna go do this whole eat, pray, love, and, like how it's all gonna work out and all of this. And it's like, no, this is my journey. This is my journey. So what is showing up right now, right here, right now, is divinely timed and perfect. My only question is like, what is this here to teach me? How does this serve me? Where do I go next? And it just becomes kind of like this meandering, we just kind of follow the path, hopefully,
Yeah, like
hopefully.
what does, so tell me what nomadic priestess is to you.
You know what? For me, what it means, like this isn't a path that I chose. I was thinking about this morning. This is not a path that I chose. I would not have chosen this life. But I feel like it's what my soul is being called through me. I feel like it's tied into my purpose. It's tied into why I'm here in this life. And I really feel like I'm supposed to help activate women to get in touch with their bodies and to get in touch with who they are and to find their personal power so that we can all kind of come together to create this new world, this new paradigm, this new way of being for all of us.
Okay, so then like that's a beautiful transition into what like reclaiming pussy means, because I know for myself, I've never embraced the word pussy my entire life. I was taught it was like the dirty word, the bad girl, whatever it is. And I think for the longest time I've never even had a word. And I still remember the first time someone spoke the word yoni to me. I was like, what foreign
What?
language is
Yeah,
that? Like I'm like,
yeah.
what are you talking about? Right? Like, she's like, sing from your yoni. I'm like, from my what?
What?
So yeah, exactly. I'm like, what? And as we, just doing a lot of this work, I still say, I still have a hard time saying, like, I'm going to say, I don't have a hard time saying pussy, but I mean, like in context of like passion or whatever, or when I'm speaking of myself, I do. But in my head, I'm like, I have this little secret place where I'm like, oh yeah, she's my pussy. She's amazing, right? She's got both like gardens and flowers and teeth and swords and all kinds of things. But so
Mm,
in terms of reclaiming pussy and following the path and listening, when we say like listening to your pussy, first of all,
mhm.
really listening to her as a guide,
Yeah.
just offering some insight around there because I've been
Mm,
on your journey.
yeah, I think pussy is a consciousness, right? I love how Mama Gina puts it, she prays to the great pussy in the sky. You know, our pussy is our innate feminine wisdom. It's our femininity. It's our life force energy. It's what kind of gets our juices flowing. It's our arrows. It's our ability to kind of go with the flow. Yes, it can be absolutely orgasmic, but I know for me, when I'm really tapped into my pussy and she's on, I know that I'm making the right decision. And how that shows up in my body is it's like a little kind of energetic wave. I'm like, oh, there you are. Oh, okay, you like that. Oh, this is a yes. She becomes like a guidepost as to how I move around the world. And as we become more embodied, our bodies become like an antenna. And pussy is so tapped in to that life force. It's life force energy. What wants to be created through me? What wants to be birthed through me right now? And just allowing that and allowing getting ourselves out of the way so that that can come through us.
Yeah, I mean I feel that so acutely, like much more now, even just, being in Montreal, having family there, and then all of a sudden needing to get up on a whim to come to Vancouver. And I had, I did it within a moments because I had to. And I just thought to myself, oh my God. At first I was really stressed and I was fighting this sense. And as soon as I gave in to this is what it is, whatever it is, and I bring it back into the just flowing into that sense of intuition, that knowing. I mean, I as soon as I landed, or actually as soon as I was on the plane, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be here. And when we talk about like knowing through pussy, which is that deep yes, it's a
Mhm.
absolute yes. And it's not just when I say not just a sexual yes, I mean, I think it's
Yeah,
all a sexual yes, but that
of
that
course.
full that full, oh yeah, this is where I'm supposed to go. And it's like a very deep central sensation of knowing.
I
And
agree. Yeah.
right. And then as soon as like
Mhm.
something is off, and you can relate it as uh, being in a sexual moment or anything in life that feels off, the rigidity in the body or the numbness, or it's like it's almost
The
like a cut
numbness.
off and the numbness. Yeah.
Yeah. My body, I've noticed when it's a no, just completely shuts down. It'll
Hmm.
either create pain or it's like a total numbness. So and I'm learning like it's that barometer, right? So when I feel that, I'm like, Oh, that's my no. That's my no. So I'm learning to not let it get to that point anymore.
Yeah.
Like can I stop it before the pain? Can I stop it before I start to numb out?
Yeah.
And the more that I tune into that yes, the stronger that yes becomes when I'm in the flow.
Yes, I was gonna say, and so does the nose, right? The nose become more definitive because as someone who was taught quite literally to not say no or to please and appease,
Mhm.
um, I've often gotten really confused over what I'm allowed to say no to. And
Mm.
so hearing a no, like a solid no, and being like, this is a good no for me, without apology makes the yeses even bigger. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Such a gift to have as a woman, isn't it? Because you're
Mhm.
right, we have been so conditioned. Good girls don't. Good girls do this. This is how, you're supposed to be the caregiver. You're supposed to be this. Like there's so many supposed tos that we forget that we actually get a say.
Yeah, and I'm curious around like what women think about their pussy and that central space and in terms of really connecting with it, even with the
Mhm.
word. Um, because I was
Yeah.
looking it up and I'm like, oh, it could have come from, I guess, some Irish or English old words around pocket, or it was used as a term of endearment. We think of pussycat, things like
Mm.
that.
Yeah.
But it's really carried a huge derogatory term with it. And I'm actually curious around what men think of the word pussy. Like whether it's that like bad girl vibe, whether they're like, yes, that's delicious, whether it's like, ooh, this is, something to be ashamed of, whether they have, like, I'm always curious, like because there is so much weight around the word pussy
I
and it's
agree.
been so, literally buried.
I agree. It's interesting that you bring that up because I did like a workshop back in January and it was at like a sex toy shop. It was
Mhm.
really interesting. And the owner there, I showed up a few minutes early before there was a bunch of other people presenting. And I got there and I said to her, I'm like, oh, I can't even remember what I said. Something about like something about pussy. I brought up pussy because it just rolls off the tongue now. I can't help it.
Mhm.
And she looked at me and she says, we don't say that word here. I'm like, you're a
Wow.
sex shop. How do we not say this here? Like,
Mhm.
how do we not say this? Like, don't you want to reclaim this word? So it was interesting, like that it became like, no, that's, she's like, well, that's yeah, I don't say that word. I can't say that word. It causes too much shame. That's a bad word to
So
say.
what is the good word? Like I want to know because from whatever I hear, there have not been any good words. And if you don't connect with, let's say,
Mhm.
yoni, like I said, I never heard of the word
Yeah.
yoni until I was like well into my 40s. I was like, oh, what? And I, been into yoga and whatever, but it never made a connection. So
Yeah.
what is a good word?
I don't know. See, I kind of interchange pussy and yoni.
Mhm.
But I think like growing up, right? What did we call it growing up? Growing up, it was a vagina. That's not even what it is.
Yeah, I know.
Like that's
Yeah.
not even the right term for it. It's like not you're not gonna say like, oh, my vulva power. Like
Oh, I didn't
that's
even get vulva. I think I got a what down there. I got
down
it.
there.
Like
Oh
that's
yeah.
it. The down
Yeah.
there. Protect what's down there.
Yes,
And
that's
later
right.
on, I think my wife even referred to her breasts as like the girls. I
The
think
girls. I call them the girls all the
the
time. Yeah,
girl.
I'm
I
always
do.
the
The girls
girls.
are
Yeah.
good. We like the
The
girls.
girls are good. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, vulva. Actually, I'm starting like I've adopted vulva. I'm like I know it's super technical sounding, but I'm like, oh, I'm like vulva sounds so rich, sounds so like I'm like vulva, and I just have this beautiful image. I get like irises and bouquets. I'm like, oh yes, it's this gorgeous, beautiful thing. But yeah, I find it really interesting that there's no, I think there's no word where we get to really claim it as like something that's not derogatory, right? And I love the reclaiming of pussy. I do.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. I do too. I'm like laughing to myself because I'm like, I can just see like your new like next podcast being Gwenm, I'm in the vulva power.
I don't know if that's well, actually, Gwenm's got an episode coming up around just well, I'll just give a sneak thing of like just all of the different vulvas, right? And the beauty
Oh,
of how different they are. Which brings me into, you know, I had never in my life ever, I don't even remember what my pussy looked like as a child, right? Growing a child, teenager, womanhood. Like sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I knew, because today I'm like, sometimes I'm like, oh, are we aging everywhere? You know, I
yeah.
have this like, was it ever prim and proper and like perfect and perfect? I have no idea. And then what happened post birth, but I remember relative like in the last few years sitting with a friend of mine and actually sitting and comparing our pussies. And I was like, this is amazing. Because I think men do it a lot, or I don't know if men do it a lot. I have this image of men sitting around um,
I think
sharing.
they do that at the urinals. I
Yeah,
think
right.
that's what they
Like,
do. Yeah.
you know, there's like this pride pack around it. I don't, I think it's really healthy to, I mean, I don't want to say we were comparing, but it was like, it was kind of like, oh, they're both so different. It
Oh
was
my
just like a
gosh.
pure, like, absolute exercise. And I thought,
Yeah.
this is amazing.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories was I just wrapped up with a client last month. And she had, and we had been working through, she had so much shame around pussy and around her vulva and, yoni. And like we got her comfortable with saying pussy. And then on our last call, she said to me, she says, I want to tell you something. And I said, what? And she says, I saw her. I said, you saw her? And she says, my pussy. I'm like, oh, you did? And she's like, yes. And
Wow.
she's so beautiful. And I was like,
Mhm.
yes, 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 yes.
And I think we need more of that. The fact that, and I don't even know what it means to teach that in schools, because I think it's I understand like we have to be really careful around, you know, allowing parents to guide their children the way they want to guide them. And at the same time, I think instead of just teaching biology, that bringing in this incredible self-love for the body and really taking a look at one's own body and getting to know it intimately before being able to share it with someone else, so that we don't step in. And I'm going to say again with men, I think men often don't have a clue around how to, whether it's expanding on their own bodies and really understanding their own natures as well as a woman's body. And like where all of our bodies are so different, but to be able to navigate it with both some confidence and communication skills that women need to own themselves, you know, you know, or anybody, right, that you can
Yeah.
map it, so to say, that you understand how it works, and not just trying to get off very quickly or please your partner very quickly, but that you're actually claiming it for yourself. So
Oh,
yeah, I find it so fascinating, like to be able to sit and, you know, I was in this setting where we got to see like, you know, this 100 sea of women's bodies and all in this incredibly ecstatic state, and realizing how different our bodies are. It actually brought so much peace
yeah.
to my own sense of I'm going to say
Hmm.
worth, sense of beauty, sense of ownership, because everything that we see out in the world is so airbrushed that
Absolutely.
it's airbrushed. It's what we're taught. Like, this is what a body is. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is what attractive looks like. I mean, even at my age today, I get really confused over, oh my God, is my pussy going to be acceptable to, you know, this? And I think particularly with men, like with women, I'm like, we all have different bodies. We all have different struggles. But I think to a man, I'm like, like, what are you thinking?
Well, yeah, but how much of that is tied into like porn culture, right?
Mhm.
And like how it's portrayed and how it's supposed to, it goes like right from the way that it looks to how it's supposed to be executed to how you're supposed to have an orgasm to, like none of that's real. None of
Yeah.
that's real. No wonder we're so dysfunctional, like really. you know? And that's why I think this work is so important because we're coming back to our bodies. We're honoring our bodies. We're teaching other women how to honor their bodies. We see the beauty in each other, and really in doing this, we're redefining what it means to be a woman, what it
Hmm.
means to be a priestess, right? This is what we're doing. It's beautiful.
It's
Is there
becoming
any
so with
better
your own
job on
body.
the,
Pardon?
yeah? I said, is there any better job in the world than
No, I don't
teaching
think
women how
so.
to love themselves? Like, seriously.
So when you think about being in your body and your pussy, I'm just curious around what was your awakening to your own? Like so your coming home to your own sensations through pussy, through your body, through orgasmic experiences. What was your like aha moment?
Well, I honestly, I think it was really after my marriage ended, and I remember, like I had so many hang-ups around sex toys and how things had to be. And my ex-husband was, that's a whole other story. But, like there wasn't a lot of expression. And I remember when I was going through a big spiritual awakening in my marriage. And I remember like when my Kundalini started to come online and I was like, oh my God, like I need to have sex right now. And I remember being, when I was like initiating, and that was something that I hadn't done in my marriage at all. And I was initiating and I was feeling more powerful and feeling more into it. And I would have like this outrageous, blow your mind Kundalini orgasm, which I realize now was a full body orgasm.
Mhm.
And he would lose his erection. And then he'd get mad at me for it. And it was like, oh gosh, am I doing something wrong? So then after my marriage ended, it really gave me the space to really tune into my body. I bought myself some toys. I started to play and like the energy flowing through my body, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to know more. I want to know more. And as I, intertwined that with my spiritual practices, my Kundalini really started to come online. And that's where I was like, oh my God, this is life force energy.
Mhm.
This is life force. And I remember specifically, like the first time I did ayahuasca, like back, I think it was, I went down to Mexico in 2021 to sit with Mama Aya for the first time. And I remember like night two, just being in like a 6 hour state of turn on, going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it just never amounted into anything. I just kind of rode this wave all night. And I remember I said to the facilitator, I'm like, oh my God, like, I should just have an orgasm. Like, I don't know what to do with all of this. And she was like, no, no, no. This is your life force.
Mhm.
This is yours. You get to choose what to do with it. And I was like, oh, I don't just have to use this for sex. I
No.
can use this for healing. I
Mhm.
can use this for my spiritual evolution. I can use this to heal my emotional body. I can use it any way I want. And I get to choose. And
Yeah.
that was magic. Yeah. So
It
fun.
is magic. I mean, I've had the experiences of the 6 hours, the days, like just being on the constant wave.
Yeah.
And how like for me, it always translates into creative energy so that
Mm.
it's like whether it's a writing frenzy or like my mind is constantly working and it's on. But the body, it's always amazing. Everything becomes so acute, right? Every sensation, every interaction and connection, and it belongs, which again nobody teaches you, right? It's like this sexual energy is so dangerous because people think that they get to then claim it, right? That it's theirs. And I'm like, mm-mm-mm-mm. Just because it is me or it's coming out of me doesn't mean that it's yours to just grab and take, right? I think that's the huge misconception when we talk about sexual violation and assault and all of these things that come up, because, or we're just going to talk around consent, is that there's this sense of, oh, well, her energy was expanded and exuded, so therefore she must want, me
Yeah.
this, right? As opposed to
Mhm.
this energy is so much greater than one
Mm.
act or for one person, or that it's just being handed over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that, and I think that there's a big misconception there. And I
Hmm.
think that's, especially too, and in thinking like on the other aspect of that, there's like a violation there, but then there's also like the numbing down of the woman, right? Like when we are in that power, when we are in that much eros, there's nothing that we can't do, you know? It makes absolute perfect sense as to why the patriarchy wants to shut that down. because a woman that is in her full power cannot be controlled, you know?
Yeah. And it's a hella sexy woman, and it is a powerful woman. I mean, I can see how it scares, like you were talking about your ex, and how it seemed to shut him down, right? It's a lot of powerful energy, and so it really does require a man, or the masculine, let's say, to be able to show up and hold that space. With
Mm,
confidence and with his own empowerment. And I think that that
yeah.
goes back to, I've always thought, like, the patriarchy, we just relate it to women as being suppressed by the patriarchy, but I think men are just as much in the suppression of it as
Agree.
well, right? Like it's a big cloud over both. Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually the biggest victims in the patriarchy actually are men. I
Mm-hmm.
really believe that because they, we as women, we're coming out of it. We're really standing for other women.
Mm-hmm.
Men don't have any role models. Where do they go with that? And I think that's why men's work is so vitally important right now.
I agree.
Definitely.
I agree. So I'm going to actually leave it there for a moment so that I get everybody to think about. We started with a question that was, what is pussy to you? And I'm inviting both men and women into that conversation because I think it's, we take this word pussy that we've used derogatorily for a very, very long time. And now it's being reclaimed, particularly by many women. And I'm just curious to know, like, how men feel with pussy and the power of pussy and the power that can then be, I'm going to say, unleashed in the bedroom, unleashed in the world, but in relationship and in connection with men and with women to each other. So I'm just going to leave you with all of that juice and everything that you just heard here, and we'll be right back. Hey there, and we are back to Skin and Soul, and I'm talking with Carol Beavers, who is an embodiment coach and a sacred photographer and nomadic priestess. And so we're just talking to men and women around what pussy means. And I just want to move on and bring that in because Carol is an extraordinary photographer who I've had the privilege of having. I've been seen, witnessed, captured, and I love her work because she makes magic on camera. And so I think this work is so incredibly powerful because through the process of working through embodiment, but also being captured on camera, that there's a transformation that happens. So I just want to speak a little bit around that. And as women, right, as they begin to really reclaim their bodies, reclaim pussy, reclaim their sexuality, their eros, their femininity, or the feminine, or whatever embodiment is true to them, as they do this, you get to capture some of these women on camera. And I know firsthand how powerful it is. And I'm wondering, like, what is the most powerful transformation that you see from, let's say, whether it's the beginning of coaching or the beginning of a photo shoot compared to the end?
Well, I think that, when it comes to the photo shoot, it's always fascinating to me because there's always the it moment. Some women reach it sooner, some reach it later. And I find usually it's the women that have done the work, that are in their bodies, that have really worked around reclaiming who they are, loving themselves. Usually it's my curvier girls that, have really done the self work, which is interesting because I've had like shoots where you've had like these beautiful women, like picture perfect, beautiful women, and they hate their shoots. The fun ones are the ones that have like gone through this embodiment process. And, you start off in the shoot and it's usually kind of slow and, but there's always a moment, right? There's always a moment that something shifts. And it's almost like you watch her turn on and she lights up from the inside out. And it's like, oh, yes, there you are. And that is so much fun to pull out and to play. And we do that through, you know, sacred ceremony. We do a lot of meditation. I give people a lot of homework before they come to work with me. When we start off in a shoot, we go back to our intention. We bring in the meditation. We bring in the goddess. And then I let it work through me. And that really seems to be kind of the magic sauce. But it usually, I'd say about halfway to about like three-quarters through the way shoot, that fire turns on. And then it becomes this co-creative, incredible space where we're just tapped into that eros and we're tapped into that turn on and we're tapped into pussy. And that's when the magic happens. It literally comes out like light beams out of their eyes. It's amazing. It's
And
really
have you
amazing.
ever been in a shoot where somebody has completely caved in and collapsed in on themselves?
Yeah, yeah, when I was working for the boudoir company, yeah, there was some moments, there's tender moments, you know, and I think that's really what started me doing this deep embodiment work and with our Vita certification was that there was these moments and I felt like there gets to be such deep shame. A lot of women have such ideas around their bodies, or when you're
Mhm.
showing them their photos, the first thing they go to is the thing that they hate.
Mhm.
Oh, 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 but that, oh, but my face, oh, but that, oh my God, I hate my arms, and it's like, okay, but can you focus on what you love? And that's why I love our Vita work so much in combination with this boudoir, because we get to do that work beforehand. You know,
Yeah, so they're coming into it with a, I mean, I know when I went to do it with you and I had this, experience with, we had someone else that you were shooting, it was the two of us. And
yeah.
I was so enamored by watching the other model, like the other person doing it, whose name I won't mention because of privacy or whatever, but just watching her, and she was definitely a curvier girl, and like, but the sexiness that came out, it I want to say, but I was just floored by the essence and the emanation of her, the comfort that came under, really it's an unusual circumstance, right? We're in a rain room, we don't know each other. We're like, hey, yes, nice to see you, nice to meet you. Let's do this. And but for me, again, it was such a powerful experience because I had grown up in dance, I had grown up in film, and there's
Mhm.
always so much judgment based on our bodies, and especially as women, like in dance at that time was based on boy body, and I mean all bodies beautiful, but really that was the revered like prepubescent, I don't want to say boy body, but like prepubescent body, right? So like curves are not encouraged, breasts are not encouraged, butts are not encouraged, right? It's like this ethereal sense, particularly in the ballet world. And my mother also having her own body issues, so being brought up in that in a very authentic way, and then getting to go into this rain room, and I'm going to tell you, I was terrified of seeing my pictures. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to see everything. But I was like, oh my God, can I just say she gives the best butt shot ever. I was like, I'm not sure my butt does that, um
Yeah, it does.
but it
Yeah, it's
does, right? She was like, yep, this is yours.
great.
um it was an amazing, liberating experience for me because I will often cave in. Like I am the girl that stands in front of a mirror and is just like, this is wrong. This is wrong, And I hear voices in my head, like my sister who's like, stretch marks are sexy and that's a woman's body. So I've really come to adopt more of that, but I love what you do because you capture this essence.
Yeah.
Um, and the naturalness of it. It's not about touch ups, and because we were talking earlier about how the patriarchy and porn have done a lot of damage to women, but as has, I'm going to say, Cosmo and Vogue and all of these,
I
like,
agree.
marketing to the teenage face and body that's airbrushed then, and saying, this is the anti-aging cream that's going to the woman in her late 30s, 40s, 50s and beyond. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane because that's not realistic. That's
Mm-mm.
not what women's bodies look for. We've been given these unrealistic beauty standards.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I love curves. I love the way that the shadow kind of captures a curve. I love how round a woman's body is. Like, I'm like, oh, like it's so there's so much eros in it. And it's like such a deep, deep, deep reverence and honoring that I get to do this. I'm like, oh my God, I think women are the most extraordinary creatures on the entire planet. I love men, but whew, women? women, those curves and the booty and the breast and the side boob and the curve of the hip and the curve of the shoulder and we're stunning, we're beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And when a woman is fully in her body and
Yeah.
claims that, the magnetism that comes from that, what she gets to create in the world because she's embodied like that is, whew, there's nothing better.
No, and it comes and it exudes out of women. And I'm going to come back to pussy because, like, there's, again, being brought up with, she smells, she's ugly, she's got to be
Mhm.
hidden, she's, you know, uh, all of this conditioning of like what the perfect yoni slash pussy looks like, right? Or vulva looks like, which is the porn ideal. I don't even know what
Yeah.
that means, right? But it's some kind of plumped up
Pink and perfect
pink
and
and
I
per
don't
like
know.
I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. Which still plays on the mind. I mean, it's like for me, I'm how old? We'll not go there today. But just that it's so deeply conditioned that I think being able to see yourself in full embodiment and reclaim your pussy, being able to see yourself in your entirety, like your beauty, your, like you said, your shoulder, your breast, but even just in starkness, just like looking in front of a mirror, just being able to stand there simply and see the beauty that's there with atrocious lighting or whatever,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. And I think we all struggle with that. I've looked in mirrors like myself and, I've been like, oh, I got to do something about that. And then it's like, okay, no, okay, reframe, reframe, reframe. Oh, I love you, dimple thigh.
yeah. But
And
it's
how,
deeper. Like, I don't know. I think
yeah.
it's deeper than that. Like it's deep. For me,
Mhm.
it's been so symptomatic when we talk about embodiment and feeling into the body.
Yeah.
Usually when I feel, let's say, I don't know, stressed or something emotional is coming up, I find I take it onto my body. So I can feel the resistance into my body. My body becomes heavier, like uglier, right? There's like
Yeah.
I could, if you're talking about body dysmorphia, literally see parts of the body expand. And so I think a lot of this work and what I see you do is strip away the
Yeah.
layers, the
The
veils
layers.
that we stick on top of ourselves, and
Absolutely.
get right into that essence and that cracks, because you do that. Like I've seen it, like you just open women up
Yeah.
and
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that really that place kind of comes from learning to have compassion for my own body. And when I say that, I mean like we spend so much time, we're so conditioned to hating our bodies, and it's like our bodies are magnificent. We can't, we're born into the body, we die through the body, we experience all life through the body. So
Mhm.
if we're experiencing all life through a vessel that we loathe and we hate, what quality of life is that creating around us? So as we start to bring in more compassion, and it doesn't happen all at once, right? It's little steps. It's little steps. Can I have more compassion for, the cold that I have last week? Or, like I felt that too, where I almost feel like when my body breaks down, that I'm doing something wrong or I've done something wrong. Like, oh, I messed up. I broke my foot. Like there's a lot of shame around that for me. That's something that I've had to work on. But what I find is as I bring more compassion to it and more acceptance and more love, that seems to help shift it. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's kind of like a reframe, right? Like, it's almost like putting like an elastic band on your wrist. And every time I think a negative thought about my body, it's like, slap that. No, no, I'm going to reframe. I'm going to have compassion. Maybe I can't love it right now, but I can have compassion for what it is right now. And I think that slowly over time, that helps us accept more and more and more and more of who we are. Definitely.
Yeah, and moving through the, we started off this show with you going into your eat, pray, love, right? And just and how difficult it is to move through the phases of like to me, my body and moving through my own version of eat, pray, love, or, I mean, I call it more like eat chaos and coming home. I don't know. But moving through all of the experiences, and it is hard to come into compassion sometimes. Like I mean, I think oftentimes the shame takes over, the uh, just being in discomfort, right? It sounds really good to be able to go on an adventure and just claim your life, but it will bring up crap. It
Absolutely.
always it does.
Always does.
And heartache and pain. Like I just started, where you're just like, oh, okay, I'm done now. I'm happy to like either rip out of my skin or let's shut this shit down. And I don't want to feel like just
Yeah.
bring it down
Yeah.
and not feel anything. Because I think most people, they don't want to feel the shame. They don't want to feel
No.
all of the discomfort. And so they end up kind of walking through life. You brought up like loathing, right? Like to go through life
Yeah.
loathing and hating your body. I'm
Yeah.
like, most people are not even aware that they loathe and hate their body. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, I'm just not going to think about it or feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. Numbness is real. Numbness is real. But the truth of it is the only way through it is to feel it,
Yeah.
you know, and there's gifts on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
you know, how much you're willing to look and be in that grief, or how much you're willing to look and be in that loathing. This is the place, right, where we start to bring the love, we start to bring the acceptance. Like, I may not be able to change this right now, but can I just wrap it in a little bit of love? Can I just hold it in a space of presence? Can I just allow it maybe just 10% more right now? And we go
Um,
slow, right?
yeah, it's slow. And I'm going to say, so when you're working with women, what do you find in terms of reconnecting to their body? What the process kind of looks like that you've witnessed?
It's slow. I find that a lot of women really want to dive in. They just want to be in there. They just want to, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. It becomes like there's some that just want to, like, they go so much into their masculine, they're just going to dive right in. And then they have this great experience, they love it, and then they don't want to look at their photos. That's always fascinating to me.
Hmm.
And I find that usually it's the women that are a little bit slower to warm up, where they're taking it slow you know and we do a lot of that with coaching, like we really, we go up to like the edge a little bit, and then we
Hmm.
come back. We want to go slowly so that the nervous system doesn't get frazzled out, because that's where we can get really, really triggered. That's where our traumas will get activated. So the more slow and steady we go, the better the result is going to be. And that's why I love this embodiment work with the coaching packages before we even get behind the camera, because it allows us to really get in and look at these things, and to have, space to do it, and to be supported and held through that process, rather than trying to, bulldoze it through. It's been really impactful doing it that way.
Yeah, I think, I mean, especially for many women who experience trauma, I think it's really important to go slow. Like I know within my own body, I
Yeah.
have had to do slow. Like I said, I think when my wife passed, I was happy. Like my sense of pleasure, my sense of like orgasmic pleasure, if you will, was like crawling out of bed and getting into a shower and letting the water just hit me and just
Mhm.
feeling sensation because like my nervous system was so on fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So going now, I know your next stop is Greece. You're going to Corfu for a
I'm
tantric
going to Gwenm.
festival, which is super
Definitely.
exciting.
Yeah.
And just yeah, how are you feeling around the like this next leg? Because I know it's a lot of it is just you are doing things on a whim.
I'm doing things on a whim. Yeah, I'm feeling an excitement in my body. I'm feeling like pussy coming online, and I'm feeling myself starting to connect with the island. I made a beautiful offer with one of our fellow Vita sisters today. I'm excited to birth that. I'm excited to bring that. Um, yeah, I can feel the goddess starting to move through me. I'm like, oh, there she is. Okay, great. The nervous system is calming down. And the more still that I'm allowing myself to get, the clearer the path is becoming. So yeah, I'm off to Greece tomorrow and we'll be there until the end of this month, maybe more. We'll see what happens.
Mhm.
But yeah, I feel very much in alignment and in the flow. So I'm excited.
That's exciting. So for yourself, in terms of your own embodiment journey, because it's been I mean, I know for me it's been a long one, but what has your embodiment journey looked like? Like, what's been your experience like in terms of
Mm.
finding yourself inside the vessel?
You know what? It was actually, I think, I too, I have had a lot of trauma, I didn't even realize until, middle of last year that I had lived most of my life in a trauma response. Um, And as I've allowed myself to slow down and be with what is, it has brought me back into my body in a way, and especially through pleasure and through pussy. I really feel like that has been the missing component. Like I feel like I've tried all of these different things, right? There's been the therapy, there's been this certification, there's been that certification, there's been, this retreat, that retreat, there's the you know, this and, all these different things, all these different ways in. And I have found that this pleasure path, this priestess work, is the thing that has taken all of those things and tied it into a nice little neat bow. And if
Mm,
you told me like 5 years ago that I would be embodied, I would have told you you were not. So I was one of these people I couldn't even ground. I'm like, how am I going to ground my energy? I can't ground my energy.
yeah.
Now I can't start my day without grounding my energy. And really, it's been that connection to pussy. It's been that connection to eros. It's been inviting that life force in. It's been allowing that transmutation through that energy to really shift it. And it's been absolutely a journey that has been remarkable and
Mhm.
yet also very quiet. It's not loud. It's gentle and it's very much the way of the feminine, right? It's very circular, you know.
Mm,
And we'll go back through things, right? Like we think we've healed something and then we kind of go on another cycle and we kind of come out and then like we're like, "Oh my God, I'm right back here again. What have I done wrong?" No, we're not doing anything wrong. We're right where we're supposed to be. We're just going in with a different perspective, you know? And I think part of being in this body is that we're continually in this spiral. And so I think it's important to remember that as we kind of scoot around again and we come back from a different look, oh yes, okay, it's just another perspective. It's like I love like the onion layer, right? Like we're like an onion, and as we peel back a layer, there's another layer, and there's another layer, and there's another layer, you
yeah.
know? And it's just, that's how we come back to wholeness. And as I think as long as we're in body, we're still doing the work.
I think always. I mean, I think there's always somebody.
Always.
I don't know how people get bored really with themselves or with another person or in this world. Like when they're just, I mean, that to me is a complete disconnection from the self,
Yeah.
to be bored. And that's why, I mean, I'm just because you brought up trauma, and I think trauma is so big in people's lives, and it's a word for me that is both overused and underused, or just
Agreed.
under or misunderstood. And when we look at trauma, I wanted to know a little bit more around like what your trauma looks like, because I think it's important for people to understand what their trauma might show up as.
Well, I would say so, my number one traumatic event in my life was I watched my dad die in front of me when I was 12 years old. And that piece of me that thought that if I loved him enough, I could save him. That was the underlying belief. And so when he died, it put me into this state of feeling this not enoughness. My love was not enough to save him, which created this part of my being that felt that I had to overgive and overgive and overgive and overgive and overgive. If I can see what's wrong with you, oh, if I love you enough, then I can maybe save my dad. And so that's become a running theme through my entire life. So how that's shown up for me has been, having a lot of sex, like, oh, let me just give more of myself. Can I give more of myself? It's showing up as my pusher, push, 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 push. No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. If I work harder, if I apply myself more, if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, then I'll finally be enough. I'll finally be enough. Doesn't work that way, and it's for me being able to finally get into that space to be able to actually really feel that and to have compassion for that. And I think, there was that part of me that like my crumbling really came with, you know, my 12-year-old couldn't hold it together anymore. She was trying so hard and so hard and so hard and so hard and holding on to everything so tight. And when things feel like they're falling apart, what do, right? We hold on tighter. If I just do this, if I just give more of myself here and more of myself there, oh, and maybe I'll just add in this and I'll add in that. No, no, what was required was really the softness, the feeling, the opening up to what is, what wants to be birthed through me. And that ultimately has been the greatest gift because unfortunately, when we're trying to push through things and creating all this trauma, trauma creates more trauma. Like it puts us in dangerous situations. It puts us in places that we're not at our highest. And that creates more damage. So I
Yeah.
think it's really important to really start to open up the conversations with our body. That's why I think compassion is so important. I really think that's the first key to starting to shift it is the softness and then bringing in compassion.
Yeah, and I know, like for me, when I think of softness, because I'm like, such a tenacious, I'm a fighter, right? So I always had my dukes up, and I realized, in my life, like I could literally feel my chest being tight, my body being tight. I used to describe my skin as being super tight, almost painful at times.
Yeah.
But in the sense of like, as soon as I felt some kind of a threat, and that threat could have been closeness. Like for me, oftentimes true intimacy would feel
Mhm.
absolutely dangerous.
Yeah,
Staying in breath, in connection with someone for too long would feel so
absolutely.
dangerous that I would almost like either get the ick or the I could feel my body just retreating and getting angry, and
Mhm. Yeah.
in my past just creating excuses of why, and
Yeah.
and that comes back to listening to my body. And I find as soon as I soften, and I literally have to tell myself, okay, I'll put my hand on my chest, like just soften a little bit. And that usually brings me back into more connection of my body. And since we're closing up shortly, I just want to bring it back into this home of pussy because I mean, and I know I was, like I said, I was not taught in my yeses and my nos. And so as we become more attuned to our yeses and our nos, and then start to soften, right? Because I don't think that, I mean, for me, I couldn't soften until I knew what my yes and my no was. And then I was like, oh, I don't have to shout my no. I don't have to punch my no. I can just, I can actually just be good with my no. Yeah, so I just want to leave it there because I know we've talked about a lot of things today. Yeah, I have one question for you before we go, and that would be, so how would it feel to see yourself through your own lens as powerful and radiant and unapologetic? What do you feel like you still have left to experience and explore in your sexuality?
You know what? Honestly, I think it's about communication. Communication is that's always been troubling for me, being able to actually voice what I need to say. I've
Mhm.
gotten a lot better with it. I don't want to leave my body to be the no. I want to be able to get into my voice and to really articulate that no very, very clearly. Um, and to like be in front of my own lens. Yeah, I think it really comes back, ironically, for me, about being seen. It's really hard still to be seen.
it's hard to be seen. And I don't know, may I add, like, I think it's the thing that we generally crave the most, right? It's like,
Yeah,
please see me. Okay, don't see me.
yeah, yeah.
Please.
See me? Don't see me. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know,
Great.
to be okay with being seen,
Yeah.
you know, to be okay.
And to the self, to ourselves first. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think that we need to show ourselves to everybody. Again, that to me is a
Mm,
permission thing, right? We all have our right to privacy, but to be able to look at ourselves honestly with deep honesty and intimacy
mm.
is the sacred.
Yeah, yeah. And not condemning those parts, just really allowing them. And,
Hmm.
again,
Yeah.
can I love this part of me? Can I have compassion? Can I bring acceptance?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just doing 5% today. And that's a good day,
Yeah.
slow and steady,
Slow and steady. Okay.
slow and steady.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. We're going to be wrapping it up today. I'm going to invite in some moon letters. Just send them in what your experiences of pussy are, and just what you've learned about pussy, how you feel about pussy, your shames, desires around pussy, or even just myths around pussy. So invitation always to send it to info@luvology.com. Thank you for joining me today on Skin and Soul. We had a beautiful day with Carol Beavers, who's an embodiment coach and sacred photographer, amazing work, and nomadic priestess. If you are also interested in working with me or knowing more about me, you can book a compatibility call on gwenmcarsley.com, or you can email me directly at info@luvology.com. Have a great week. Thank you for listening to Skin and Soul with me, Gwenm. Join me Fridays at 10 a.m. PST on Transformation Talk Radio. Catch the podcast anytime on your favorite platforms. You can follow me on Instagram @Luvology. Ready to take the next step? Book a compatibility call with me at gwenmcarsley.com.